Hey everybody, this is Shawn, your local dietitian out of Atlanta, Georgia, coming at you with another recipe today. We are going to be making tuna cakes with a lemon zest sweet relish that's going to go on top of it. So, as always, what are the ingredients that we're going to need? First and foremost, you're going to need a bowl. You're going to need some measuring spoons, so teaspoon and tablespoon. You're going to need a knife. This knife is a Henkel, which is a German forged knife, which is a really good knife company. A keto, there's several that are very good. Make sure you always have a very sharp knife, so when you're cutting things, it can obviously go right through the ingredients that you're cutting. You don't want something that's dull, because if you go to chop down and it doesn't chop down through it, then your risk for cutting down and cutting yourself is going to be a lot higher. So always invest in a good knife. Ingredient wise, you're going to need tuna fish, some mayo. I have some Kraft olive oil meal here. We have parsley. We have a fresh lemon, pepper, salt, some sriracha, and then some things that are going to help kind of bind and hold these together. We have some breadcrumbs. I don't have panko breadcrumbs today, but I do recommend using panko breadcrumbs. And also to make any type of burger or cake, like again, for example, this tuna cake, a little moister, you can soak your breadcrumbs, not a lot of buttermilk, but in a little bit of milk or buttermilk, and it'll make your cakes or burgers much more moist in the middle. And then I have 1 egg, right? So first thing I'm gonna do, I have 3 cans of tuna fish already. You can do white albacore tuna fish, or you can do regular tuna fish. If you want to kind of take it up another level, you can actually buy fresh tuna and then either chop it really, really fine or put it through a grinder and do it that way as well. It just depends on the level of how much you want to do it. Obviously, you get fresh tuna, it's going to be quite a bit more expensive. Versus you get the canned tuna fish. I mean, this is about probably like 50 cents to $1, which is very inexpensive, but it's also a very great lean protein source, and it has a lot of omega-3s in it. So just gonna open this last can. We're gonna stick everything into this metal bowl so that it mixes together. Make sure when you're undoing your can, you really press all of the excess liquid out of your tuna fish. We don't want that excess liquid in there because it can make it challenging to make it into tuna cake patties. Right, so all 4 of my tuna is open. I'm just gonna slice up a little bit of green onion. You can do white onion, red onion, Vidalia onion. Again, there's gonna be obviously some onions that go better with some dishes. Since again, it's a little bit more of I have a little bit of an Asian theme this weekend, I'm gonna go with a little bit of green onion, or you can use a scallion as well. Always remember when you're cutting, you're curling the fingers back. We don't want the fingers out, because when we were cutting down, right, we want to be able to cut as we go across and along, rather than if you're here and you try to cut down, you might cut your finger. And then we have this nice rocking motion. Again, this is gonna look very quick on my end, because I'm used to cutting vegetables and ingredients. I took a really great course over COVID, which was called Ruby. It is a cooking certification that I did. It's at your own pace. It took me about, I don't know, I would say 6 months to do, maybe less than that. I can't exactly remember. But it took me through all the basics of cooking, chopping, and then pretty much all of my things that I had to make were graded and responded by actual chefs. So if you're interested in a side project or a hobby, something really cool you could do, it definitely improved and enhanced my cooking skills a lot. So, got our onion in there. I'm gonna grab a spoon. We're gonna get all the tuna out of the cans. Right, there might be some of these little things in the crevice in there. Make sure when you're going around the can, you're getting out all of the tuna so we can get everything in there at once. Tuna cakes were something my father made when I was younger. He used salmon as well. You know, sometimes, depending on what type of fish you eat, some fishes can be really fishy. I think tuna is a little bit on the milder side, if I say so myself. So if it's something where you're introducing yourself to seafood, this tends to be not one of the ones where you're gonna be like, oh man, I'm just eating a really fishy fish. Okay, so we have all of our tunas inside the bowl. Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna start with all our ingredients that take a tablespoon first. All right, so I have a dry ingredient and also more of a liquid or a wetter ingredient. I'm also gonna do the dry ingredient first because this is gonna come right out of the spoon versus once I stick the mayo in there, that's gonna probably leave a little bit of remains after that. So I have my parsley here. I'm doing a full tablespoon of parsley. Sprinkle that around. Got a little bit of excess in there, so I'm just gonna tap it on the side. Then I'm gonna go in, get my mayo, and I'm using a olive oil mayo. Usually the two oils I really recommend a lot are olive oil, actually virgin olive oil, or some type of avocado oil. All right, and then now the next ingredients are all gonna be a teaspoon. Again, to make this easier for yourself, you know, sometimes you're like scrolling through or rolling through ingredients if you're ever made a recipe before, and you're like, man, this is a teaspoon, that's a tablespoon, this is a half a teaspoon. If you just bunch all those things together, it makes it a lot easier to remember, you know, what specific ingredient and how much you're putting on each. So obviously the first two were a tablespoon, the next three are going to be a teaspoon. So we've got our black pepper here, 1 tablespoon of that. Next, we have our salt. Remember, try to utilize some iodized salt. Iodine is very important for keeping the thyroid healthy. And then we have a little bit of sriracha, so this is just gonna have a slight kick. It's not gonna be super hot, but just a little bit of heat we're throwing into our tuna cakes today. And then I'm gonna start adding some of our binders. So one's gonna be half a cup of our breadcrumbs. Again, I really recommend trying to use the panko breadcrumbs. Definitely the type of breadcrumb you use definitely makes a big difference in the texture for sure. Got my egg, I'm gonna crack that on the side, split that open, let that drop in. And then the last thing we're going to do is we have our lemon here. So two things I'm gonna do with this lemon. One, I'm gonna use it in our tartar sauce, if you want to call it, and then the other half I'm going to actually use inside of our actual cakes. So before I cut this though, you're going to need a zester. If you don't have an actual zester, you could also use some type of grater. All right, so I'm just going to scoot this across, and I'm going to get the zest. Man, I really don't want to go. Here we go. The zest of the lemon in there. That's going to really bump the flavor up a lot. I mean, if you've ever zested anything before, you can always really smell that flavor just coming off as you're zesting it. Whether that's an orange, whether it's a lime. Obviously today we got a nice lemon. So that's a really good amount right there. You can already smell that citrusy flavor coming off of that. I'm gonna cut the lemon in half. Again, half of the lemon is gonna go towards the tartar sauce, so I'm gonna leave that half over here. And then what I'm gonna do is, obviously sometimes your lemons are gonna have seeds, some may have a lot, some may have a little. So I'm just gonna hold my hand over the bowl, and when I squeeze this, I'm gonna let the juice through, but I'm gonna collect all those seeds that may come out. I'm squeezing that lemon as hard as I can. Got lucky today on this one, doesn't have a lot of seeds in it. Yes, my hands are clean. Remember, always wash your hands before you cook, so that way they're clean, you don't get any bacteria in there. Cleanliness and food safety is extremely important, so we're not getting any bacteria in the food. So I have all my ingredients now in the pan. The other thing you want to do is, like I always talk about, well, let me stir this broccoli up real quick. But you always want to make sure your pan is on medium heat, so that way it's nice and warm and ready to go. Especially with tuna cakes, we want to make sure we have a nice crispy crust on the outside of our cake that helps to kind of lock everything inside. So just going to get my hands dirty in there, mixing the ingredients. I kind of go in this clockwise / counterclockwise motion a few times, and then I'll come underneath and then flip it over, because sometimes there's gonna be ingredients in the bottom of the bowl that if you don't kind of scoop it, almost like a spoon, then it can be pretty tough to get everything mixed. Now, your person you don't like to get your hands dirty. That's kind of up to you. I don't mind getting my hands a little bit dirty, so that's why I'm kind of getting it in there. You know, that's kind of getting some of the fun about cooking at the end of the day. So, I'm gonna wash my hands off real fast. We have our tuna cakes all ready to go. And let me just move the camera so you can see what I'm doing over here. And we'll move the camera back so you can see how we make the relish. But a little bit bigger than a meatball. If you want to do really large tuna cakes, that's fine. I like to do mine just a little bit smaller because the smaller ones are going to cook technically a little bit faster. Now, one thing I definitely don't want to forget, we're going to stick a little bit of EVOO in the pan, about 1 to 2 tablespoons. All right, this is about the size of the tuna cake that I'm talking about. And again, as soon as you hear me put this in, you're going to hear the sizzle on the pan. And that's what you want to hear. That's always a good indicator the pan is nice and hot and it is ready to stick something on it. So usually I'll go flat and then I'll come around the sides to kind of flatten it out. And as I'm flattening out the sides, I'm also pushing it down to then expand it a little bit. All right, so with 4 cans of tuna, it's probably gonna make you maybe 4 tuna cakes. So almost like 1 can is 1 tuna cake. So if you're serving a lot of people, I'm gonna be honest with you, you're gonna need a lot of tuna. Or you could use these and make smaller patties. And you could always do it as some type of appetizer, and that can kind of extend it, and maybe you don't need as many tuna cakes or as much tuna at the end of the day. So we're almost there, we're at 5. I kind of got 3 medium-sized ones, and then I got about 2 smaller ones there. Okay, let's get a little bit closer so you can see that. Now I'm just gonna switch the pan around a little bit because I just want the oil to get to all the tuna cakes. Now make sure you pay attention to your time. Right now it is 4:52. So seafood does not take a very long time to cook. So you're not gonna have those in there for like 20 minutes, right? They'll be overcooked, they'll be dry. No one likes that. That's just disgusting. So you're cooking about 4 to 5 minutes on each side, not flipping them a lot because you want to get that nice crispy crust on the bottom of your tuna cake, which is going to be very important, right? It's going to be soft on the inside, but so we can offset that and have some different textures, we're going to obviously make sure we want it to be crispy on the opposite side. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our lemon tartar sauce. Very simple as well. We get one other spoon out of there. So we are going to take, again, some mayo, olive oil mayo. We're going to throw this into a bowl. No, there's not an exact science of measurements behind this. I'm pretty much at the very end of my mayo here, so I'm honestly going to use all of it. Plus, we also have 5 tuna cakes, so we want to make sure we have enough that we can have on every single tuna cake. So you got your mayo done. We're gonna bring over your gherkins, sweet relish. Again, if it doesn't open, sometimes you need a little more grip. You can use your shirt, you can use a towel. And this one really doesn't want to open. I'm gonna use a towel this time. Oh, there we go. Takes a little bit of muscle to get that off. I'm gonna get one more spoon out. All right. Now, the amount of mayo you have, you don't need the same amount of relish. So this is about a tablespoon I'm gonna plop into there. If you like a little bit more relish, you could do another tablespoon or a half a tablespoon. That's really up to you. Got my salt and pepper shakers here. A little bit of salt, a couple twists, a little bit of pepper, a couple twists. And then I'm gonna squeeze in my lemon. All right, so this one's got a couple of seeds, so I'm just opening my fingers enough to let the lemon juice through, throwing those seeds in the sink so that I don't have to get them mixed in with everything else. The worst thing you want is if you're eating something and all of a sudden there's this random seed in there. That's not a very good texture or something to bite down on. All right, remember, I'm just pressing as hard as I can. I want to get all the juice out of there as much as possible. All right, you see I'm doing this next to a sink because in between, your hands are gonna get a little gunky, and I always like to make sure I'm washing my hands every time in between. All right, so you're gonna give this a good mixy mix, okay? Don't be afraid to give it a little quick extra mix, okay? Really simple relish. Now, I'm gonna actually add a little bit more relish just because the ratio between the two isn't as much as I would like. Boom. So there's your relish. All right, and then we're gonna head back over to the stove because our tuna cakes have probably already cooked almost about 4 minutes here. So we're gonna bring you on back to the cooking action. All right, you can see over here as well, I have some nice zucchini and broccoli. So what I did there was just a little salt, pepper, olive oil, and I did a little bit of lemon juice in them as well. You can kind of see a little bit of a theme going here with the tuna cakes and the veggies that we have going today. So I'm gonna take my spatula, all right? I'm gonna hold the one side, not sticking my hand into the oil or touching the pan because I don't wanna burn myself. But I'm sticking my hand on one side just to hold it. I'm gonna get up underneath and I'm gonna flip it, all right? And you're gonna start seeing, as I'm flipping these, we have this really nice golden brown crust on each of these. Again, there's gonna be some oil in the pan. We wanna make sure we're getting that oil separated out. Because again, that's why the outside of this is soaking up the oil because we're pan frying it to get it nice and crispy. So what we're gonna do there, I'll just give you a little bit closer look so you can see what I'm talking about here. See that nice crispy brownness that we have on those? That's exactly what you're looking for. Okay, so we're gonna give those, again, about 4 more minutes so that we get the other side nice and crispy. Again, this is part of the meal prep that I do on the weekends. I always, like I said in a couple other videos, I'll get lots of different protein options. I had tuna this week, I got ground beef, I got chicken that I'm gonna cut up in half and then marinate the 2 different types of chicken, right? So I have an idea when I'm going to the store, what recipes or what things I'm gonna make or what things go really good together. Because then when I do that, right, that's going to help me figure out what other ingredients or what other things I'm gonna need. Certain spices, am I gonna need certain other grains, certain vegetables, right? If I got tuna, you know, one thing that always comes to mind that goes really good with tuna is some rice. So you get a wild rice, you can get a brown rice, you can get a white rice. You could use the rice cooker recipe that I provide you guys. That takes maybe 15-20 minutes to make rice and your rice comes out perfect every single time. But lots of different options you kind of mix and match together. So that way you can have, you know, a lot of different options for meal prep. Because again, you know, no one wants to eat the same thing 7 days in a row. That can be a real big hassle. Another thing with meal prep is always making sure that you have enough containers, right? If you have a family, if you have a wife, if you have a girlfriend, and you're gonna meal prep together or meal prep for all of them, right? You're gonna have to make sure you have enough containers so everybody has the amount that they need. So if you're gonna cook for every 2 to 3 days, right? You got 2 people in the house, at bare minimum, you're gonna need 4 containers. I always recommend having a couple more beyond that, just in case you do have some extra leftovers. I tend to go with a lot of now ceramic and specifically glass containers, trying to move away from as much plastic as possible. You know, heating things up in plastic or things up specifically in BPA, which a lot of companies are starting to remove that now, which is great. But we want to try to reduce the amount of possible plastic ingestion or possible chemicals that we might get from heating or eating things in plastic. So the more you can try to cook and make food specifically obviously in those glass containers, or obviously a lot of the pans and the utensils that we use are going to tend to be more metal. So we're putting ourselves at less risk for getting some of those things specifically into our body. All right, so we are almost done with these, and I'm just going to show you what they look like on the other side, and then we'll just kind of go over really fast how we can put this together to end everything. So we cooked 4 minutes on each side. Nice brown on that side, so we're good there. Just gonna check the other ones. They're looking good. So every side, we did a really good job here with these, and all of them are cooked evenly. Now, if you like yours a little bit more, cook an extra minute or so, but these are looking pretty spot on. All right, so I'm gonna show you how you're gonna finish this off and how you can make it look, especially if you're trying to present it to somebody. So we're just gonna take one. This one has a really good crispy outside or color to it. I'm gonna put it on our plate. Anytime you want something to look really nice, I recommend having a white plate. Let me just scoot this back more. Having a white plate, it really is able to show off the food and how it looks a lot better. It gives it a little bit more character, makes the food obviously the main thing that lets it shine. So we have our tuna cake, right? I'm just going to drizzle this over top. Okay. Boom. There's your tuna cake. All right. Video that took about 22 minutes. Again, if you weren't talking like I were, it could take you probably 18 to 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes if you worked really fast and had everything prepped and ready beforehand. But that is a fast and easy lean protein option with a nice little sauce on top that complements it to really enhance the flavor. Again, anytime you're in the kitchen, you're always wanting to use herbs, spices, sometimes different types of sauces, glazes. It's really going to bring up and enhance the flavor of your dish. You don't want to just cook everything with nothing. No one likes bland food. But if you want to continue to watch more videos like this to learn how to cook, if you want to listen to my podcast with a variety of different health professionals or performance professionals that help to support and help athletes, if you want to learn more about sports nutrition, all of that information, you can go to my link in my IG bio, and all those links are in one spot for you to be able to click on them. If you need nutrition services too, I have a website on there as well. So you can hit it up on IG and post the videos on there, or you can look on my YouTube and I have videos on there. Hope you guys enjoyed this recipe, and maybe you can throw it down in your kitchen this weekend or possibly next week.